Advantage Chairman Matt Towery, and from the Trafalgar Group, Robert Cahaley is with us. All right, Robert, you had new polls come out today. You have the president up slightly in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and down one in Wisconsin. Now, if you look at those states in 2016, you called those states. 10,700 in Michigan was the margin, about 22 or 24,000 in Wisconsin, 44,000 in Pennsylvania. That's not a lot of votes in any case. Where do you see it now?
Very much the same way. I mean, these states are very close. The margin of error is very tight. Where I've stated many times, I'm very concerned about voter fraud, and especially Pennsylvania. But this thing is on the edge in these states. There's no question.
Yeah. Matt, you've done two polls in Pennsylvania. The first one, you had Trump down by 3. The one that came out this week, you had him up by 2. You had the president up 3 in Florida. You called it in 2016 as well that President Trump would win. What do you see now? How similar, or do you see differences in this campaign?
Well, I'm seeing some shifting. First of all, this election, I'm seeing older voters tend to not be quite as enthusiastic for the president, although they're coming around. But what I'm really noticing, I don't know if Robert has seen this in the last week or so, in Pennsylvania, for example, we're seeing younger voters who are coming around to the president. And we've asked a question about how they feel about a shutdown during COVID. And I think this is something that we really haven't talked much about. But in the last debate, Joe Biden talked about a dark winter we were headed towards. And in the last 5 or 6 days since that debate, I've begun to see this change among younger voters. I'm talking not really young, but I'm talking about people 30 to 44, something in that area. And I'm beginning to see that shift, and I really believe that has something to do with the dichotomy between what Trump is saying, which is we're going to keep this country open and moving, and Biden is saying, alluding to the fact that we may have another shutdown. I think that's having a real effect, and we're seeing the vote shift based on that. And of course, in Pennsylvania, fracking as well, which was a huge mistake for Biden in that debate.
All right, let's go to the must-hold states for President Trump. That would be, Robert, Florida. That would be Georgia. That would be Ohio. That would be North Carolina. That would be Iowa. That would be Arizona. Do you see any problems in any of those states for President Trump this year?
Well, certainly I see North Carolina is being very, very tight. Tighter than we'd like to see it. You had him up by 3? I think it was 2.7 something, but we see it's tighter than we'd like to see them. But I do feel good about all of them, and I have to agree with what Towery said. That there's no question that people left that debate with the understanding that Biden thinks the solution to dealing with coronavirus is more shutdowns, and Trump is saying let's not shut down. And there are a lot of folks, young people we see moving. We see people that are hourly workers moving because they can't stand another shutdown. They don't think that's an option.
So that's pushing younger voters towards Donald Trump. Of those important must-win states, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, Arizona. You see any problems for the president?
Well, I agree with Robert. North Carolina is always problematic. I mean, my specialty has always been the South. Florida, I think the president is doing very well. Georgia, I would wait for the Rosetta Stone landmark poll. That usually is the best poll. It had the president up about 4 points. I think the New York Times, I'll do deference to them. This other group knows Georgia much better. I used to do it. I've not polled Georgia this time. I think the Midwest is going to be problematic for the president, but I think he can overcome it. We have to remember one thing. Donald Trump is the most dynamic presidential candidate of my lifetime. I've never seen anything like it. And him personally going to these locations and drawing people out, particularly in these semi-rural and rural areas where they need to pile those votes up, that's going to come back home in a big way to Donald Trump on election night. And I don't think these polls are picking that up. Yeah.
All right. So then
no question.
The next question. Now, every single poll, even the beloved Nate Silver, 538. Boy, the liberal media loves Nate Silver. Even he recognized that there is a dramatic increase in support for the president, especially among younger African Americans and younger Hispanic Americans. Is that real? Because I noticed both of your polls show the same thing. Matt.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, because both of us have a type of system in which we're able to get voters to tell us more because we're not being completely direct in all of our questioning. We have a blended system. I think Robert has the same sort of basic approach. And by doing that, you can get people to tell you how they feel like they're doing in the race and how they're going to vote without feeling like they're telling someone and that somehow they're going to have some retribution for admitting that they're voting for Donald Trump. In that sense, we're seeing African American voters at about 15% in these polls. Now, that can sometimes tick down or up, but I've been doing this a long time, both as a candidate, as a pollster, as a columnist. I have never seen a Republican with 15% of the African American vote or thereabouts this close to an election ever in the entire time I've ever polled. Now, it could melt down a little bit, but it could also melt up.
Do you see this, Robert, translating into votes? I mean, these are not outlier polls. It is almost every single poll showing dramatic increase in support among minorities for the president. The issue came up during the debate. The president mentioned the Platinum Plan, opportunity zones, historically black colleges, criminal justice reform, police reform, and then record low unemployment for every demographic in the country for 3 years, something Biden, Obama never got done.
Absolutely. I look at last week as a major week for that because at the beginning of the week you had the 50-cent endorsement, and then you had a bunch of people who aren't regular, they don't watch conservative news, they don't listen to talk radio, watching this debate, and they hadn't heard everything that Trump had done for the African American community, and they're telling us on the polls that they went and Googled some of this stuff and realized Trump was telling the truth. We've seen him eclipse 20 in Pennsylvania. We've seen him eclipse 20 in Michigan and North Carolina, and he eclipsed 30 in Florida in just 1 week with the African American sample. So we feel like it's on the move, and the undecideds in the African American group they've gone away. There are very few undecideds. So as I've stated in a couple of tweets, these shy Trump voters don't seem very shy anymore.
Prediction: who's going to win the race? Robert, well, I tell you what, I got to run. We got to dip into the president. Robert Kahali, thank you. Matt Towery, thank you. The president in Omaha.